Hello everyone. Welcome to another daily plan. Looks like everything is all good on my end. Here, one sec. I gotta move something from my mic. Okay, there we go. So, now let's get this show on the road. Let me know if you're here, let me know if you have any requests or anything chart related. We're going to be going over and reviewing some of the events that happened during the inauguration yesterday, just so we're all up to date. And then kind of also do a review, not a very thorough review, that's why I say kinda, of some of the events that happened yesterday that were traded. Specifically this one here, when this is why we sit down, and when Trump is speaking for the next 4 years, we try and sit in and listen. Because oh so casually, during the Oval Office signing of executive orders, he went out and said this: he will enact the 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada probably by February 1st. Which, as soon as I heard that, I immediately went and posted it. I'll go ahead and bring it up now into the Trump Watch thread. And then later on, he also said this stuff. Trump declares, I mean, this was a lot earlier, a national energy emergency. We knew about that much earlier. But right off the bat, all the dollar pairs, once they load, you can see there's a big red bar. And then we go ahead and load euro. Come on, there's a big red bar. And we can turn off the yield spread so you can actually see the red bar. New Zealand, and wow, pound is down 90 pips at the moment. There's another big red bar, and you can see how this was being traded. We got long here because it sounded like, oh, there's not going to be any tariff announcements going forward here. And then we got that one off the cuff thing from a reporter asking him in the Oval Office, you know, when do you think the tariffs will come? And Trump just is like, February 1st. And it just sends the market into panic. And we're like, oh shit. Oh, shit. Time to get long the dollar again now. And especially for New Zealand, I'm surprised this isn't lower. Maybe it's holding off until we get the New Zealand quarter over quarter, quarter 4, 2024 inflation rate. And again, the RBNZ is expected to cut 50 basis points in February. That's kind of a given. But lower than 0.6, and especially if it's lower than 0.4, the quarter over quarter CPI for New Zealand, it increases the chances of rate cuts beyond the 50 basis points that we'll get in February. And then if we get a 0.6 or higher quarter over quarter CPI, it could cause the RBNZ to hesitate. Excuse me. It would cause the RBNZ to hesitate if CPI came in at quarter over quarter CPI in New Zealand came in at 0.6 or higher. It would cause them to hesitate on doing the 50 basis points move. They might do 25. They might go with the full 50, but then say we're not doing any more until we see continuation. So then falling back on, you know, a data dependence policy. That seems to be the consensus. If we get like 0.5, 0.6, it'll just kind of be like, okay, we're still going to do 50, but we want to see more data before we do anything else going forward from here. Does that make sense, everybody? As far as how New Zealand, at least how I'm doing analysis on New Zealand. Okay, and then we had the ZOO Economic Sentiment Index already come out. It should be right there. Yeah. So actual was 10, forecast was 15. So the sentiment index in Germany is worse. Worse. Also, I saw different numbers on trading economics. Yeah, I saw the ZOO current conditions. That went from a negative 90 from a previous of 93. So the current conditions are still negative, but they're improving slightly. And there's also a ZOO economic index for the euro area, and that improved slightly as well. That was expected to fall, but that also improved slightly. We're going to be getting Canadian inflation in an hour and a half. I won't be around for that, but real quick. We can also look at the dollar CAD and see how obviously on this bar here we had, it is making me laugh because this looks like one of the patterns you used to see in crypto for a long time, and I'm pretty sure it still shows up in more in some assets more frequently than others. Not so much Bitcoin anymore, but this looks like a inverse BART. And it's called an inverse BART because it looks like Bart Simpson's hair. So you draw down, and then squiggles, and then all the way back up. And if you set this to yellow, right, it looks like Bart Simpson's head upside down. So that's why it's called a Bart. And that's just hilarious. To see that in FX explicitly, to see that in FX, it's very, 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 very funny to see that a Bart pattern of FX. Let's see here. Create highlight video. What's this thing? Oh, apparently you can do a highlight in real time on your stream. You can, yeah. Here, I'll switch my, yeah, check that out. You can create a video and publish it. Look at that. That's kind of interesting, huh? Right as you guys are watching it, I could be publishing highlight clips. And then again, you guys would have to sit through me going, oh man, I wonder if I should clip this. I wonder if I should clip that. I mean, it would probably save me a lot of time in editing, but it might get annoying as a viewing experience to be like, oh man, Joe is just clipping every other thing that he says. How annoying. This isn't a clips channel either, or at least not yet. I'm not paying anyone to do clips quite yet. Anyways, let's go ahead. Put this back. Also, I'll put the background music on. Yeah, there we go. Hopefully you guys enjoy that. Again, let me know if you do. So we'll continue with our review real quick. Things just kind of shifted around. Find. Ah, yes, there it is. Here's the screen. And also here is the Discord with the Trump Watch. So again, here in the Trump Watch thread, if you need to figure out how to get into here, right there, Trump Watch, right? Actually, I should probably put this in the welcome chat because a lot of people are probably going to be coming in here specifically for this thread now. But yeah, here's all the information for the Trump Watch thread. And it's already come super in handy. Because as soon as I saw, hey, Trump just said something off the cuff about the 25% tariffs, I did an at here for everyone who wanted to get notifications. So remember, make sure you do click on these little three dots at follow to get those. Also, in the pinned messages, I'm putting all the resources I'm using to get updates immediately. So there's the White House, and then now Trump has the official President of the United States Twitter handle. I haven't put the Truth Social page in here yet, but it'll be there eventually. Now, there was this other thing I mentioned about the energy emergency. I actually posted in here, uranium nuclear energy, I bet will pop. So let's go ahead. And let's look at uranium futures. And if I recall correctly, I drew a big fat arrow. Yeah, that's right. So this might be really hard to see with this layout here with these like really super tiny dots. You probably won't be able to see it. But if I do this, now you can see, okay, here's all the prior chart history of where uranium futures were. And apparently the current bid ask is way up here, back to May 2024 highs. Apparently this national energy emergency is going to give Trump more say in being able to go, oh, there are all these regulations to building these nuclear power plants and getting energy for AI and crypto up and running. Because if he really wants to, you know, outside of fucking starting his own coin and all that bullshit. One of the things he could actually do that would economically actually help with cryptography and crypto coins and, frankly, more importantly, with AI energy needs. Getting the small modular nuclear reactors able to get through regulations a lot more speedily, to put more or less a priority on making sure we have good regulations for those guys. That's much more important. And a lot of those guys aren't using uranium, but it's the first thing. Traders aren't always the smartest people in the room. They just hear energy and they think nuclear, and then they go to the uranium futures. But then it could also mean that maybe there's upgrades to the nuclear plants that do have uranium. PDN, uranium ASX. PDN, thank you very much. One sec, that's the futures tab. Paladin Energy. We'll have to see if it's a good buy or not. We'll have to see once the next session opens here. We'll check this out in a few days and see if there's maybe any news on nuclear energy coming around the corner here. But this whole national energy emergency now puts upside risks on the nuclear energy sector. Like, any day during the administration now, he could say something, and this is what it was like with trading Trump in 2016, guys. It was some of the most stressful trading, not all the time, but if you didn't have, if I had a Trump watch thread during the first administration, it would have been so much easier. Because again, this is a collaborative thread. I'm not going to just be the only one posting in here. If you guys do catch something, please post it in here and ping, right? So then we can actually get notified of when stuff goes down as soon as possible. Because speed will be incredibly, incredibly important. All right. And speaking of stuff, these are all the executive orders that have come out. Guaranteeing the United States protection against invasion, restoring names that honor American greatness, designating cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, reforming the federal hiring process. This is all stuff yesterday, so this is just the review, right? Ending racial and wasteful government DEI programs. You can click on these and read them if you want. These, as far as I know, there's a newsletter that you can sign up to on the very front page of the White House website. I just posted a link to this exact page that I'm on right now in the chat. Their newsletter sign up isn't working. People aren't getting notified of when these bits of news actually hit the wire in their email, which should be how most people get notified right off the bat. But Lord knows that there are already robots connected to this website looking at these headlines and using AI to determine if something is bullish or bearish for asset XYZ or whatever. And then there's a ton of these sorts of threads on X that are like, hey, I'd like to summarize all the things that happened. And it's literally just this, right? Oh my God. There's, protecting American people against invasion. OECD global tax deal. Reevaluating and realigning U.S. foreign aid. Withdraw of all offshore wind leasing. Declaring a national energy emergency. Let's see. Is there nuclear in here? Nope. Nuclear isn't mentioned in here. But this is generally how he wants to go about doing this. within 30 days of submission. The initial summary report describes. Okay, so within the next 30 days, we're going to get a status report. So sometime in February, we'll get an update on this. The term energy and energy resources means crude oil, natural gas, lease condensates, liquid natural gas, refined petroleum, uranium, coal, biofuels, geothermal heat, kinetic movement of flowing water, and critical materials. So there you go. There's your uranium. And you can also argue that this state of national emergency would also probably be really beneficial for coal as well, because God only knows if, remember Trump and the clean coal commentary stuff? We might see some coal power plants come back online. However, there's been a recent trend of coal power plants shutting down during the Biden administration and then getting bought up and turned into these new hubs for generating electricity. Like, there are coal power plants that are getting retrofitted into other kinds of power plants at the moment. So we'll see really how far the coal stuff goes. But the uranium is interesting. The nat gas and the crude oil stuff is also interesting. We'll have to follow through on, okay, what are the specifics and the ramifications that come from this. Yeah, some of the plants are private, yeah. Energy supply means the production. Again, these are just all definitions and whatnot. But this part is kind of important, huh? Figuring out exactly what he means by energy resources. It's very important. Okay, let's see. Anything else that's restoring the death penalty and protecting public safety? Whoa, all right. Let's read this for a second. Murder of law enforcement, a capital crime punishment or committed by an alien illegally present in this country. So you can, is he saying you get the death penalty if you commit a capital crime as an illegal or murder a law enforcement officer? I'm pretty sure that's what he's saying. Yeah, death penalty regardless of other factors for every federal capital crime involving these two things. Wow. Wow. That's a very clear deterrent. Eye for an eye sort of tactic, that's for sure. Right, life for a life. You take a life, you forfeit your own sort of deal. Let's see here. Let's keep going. Anything else in here we should know? No. But I'm surprised I haven't heard about this at all in the news. This is why we're going to the primary source, right? The White House website, looking at all the news. Putting people over fish, stopping radical environmentalism to provide water to Southern California. Okay, I'm going to copy this and put this into the thread here that we have on the 2025 Southern California wildfires. And you can see we have all these resources. And by the way, all of these threads, they all have a pinned message that takes you to the Wikipedia page. And then you can read all the background and all the history on it. These threads are meant for updates and discussions on all these different topics here. And you can go to the research forum and you can check them out. So there's the wildfires, there's the Trump inauguration, this is Russia, Ukraine, and this was started a long time ago. When was this started? October 26th, 2023. Wow. So this thread's been going on for longer than the thread that we had on the 2024 election. This is the border crisis thread, the Mexican drug war thread. These are actually two different things, believe it or not. This is regarding illegal immigrants, and this is regarding cartels. Trump Watch, and then tariffs. And everything that's tariff related that gets posted into Trump Watch gets forwarded into the tariffs thread. Trump Watch is for immediate news notifications, getting information as quickly as possible. So it's like as soon as news comes out, it goes into Trump Watch, and then it can get forwarded to other places from there. Australian federal election. We can filter this stuff by elections, and you can see all the elections here. So second cabinet of Donald Trump. So this is for updates around his cabinet. So if he fires someone, that goes in here sometime during his term. The French National Assembly election, that's going to be coming up here. Actually, there's another election that's much, much sooner, and that's the German federal election, which should be happening. Let's see here. I started watching this on November 9th. Let's go ahead. And by the way, there's two links here because this Wikipedia page actually describes why the government in Germany collapsed during the final quarter of 2024. So you can, yeah, it's mostly because of this guy, Linder, this guy getting dismissed. And then the vote of confidence and all that stuff, it describes what happened, why everything fell apart. So let's see here, February 23rd, 2025. All right, that's all I needed. That is when the next federal election is being held in Germany. So kind of important to watch. It'll be a huge surprise if the AfD wins, but they're getting a lot of press, so there's a lot of things in here. Also, this is when Alice Weidel had a space on X, a podcast little thing on X with Elon Musk, and this went viral, and people were saying it's dangerous. I thought it was a really benign conversation when I listened to this, like extraordinarily benign. Yet the German media went and said like, oh, it's such an extreme. Go ahead and listen to it yourself. Maybe I should pin this thing because it got Alice Weidel a lot of exposure, and a lot of eyes were put on her once Elon Musk did this thing. I mean, even the people in Germany who are like, we don't want like foreign interference from Elon Musk, and Elon Musk sells a lot of cars in Germany. He's been trying to sell more cars in Germany, so he's got an interest, an economic interest, but everyone's got their hand in a few cookie jars when it comes down to political things. So I'm not going to over speculate about whose motivations are what. However, whenever I'm coming across anything related to any of the parties around the German federal election, I'm posting it in there. And I follow all of the leaders in Germany of all the parties in Germany to try and find updates. Anyways. And then again, I can't always translate everything that's going in there. I have to use translation options, either built into X or using Google Translate to give you the actual translations here. Same thing with the French National Assembly election here. And then, of course, you have the UK election. Then there's actually an election in Japan coming out here. The House of Councilors election. It's a more minor election. We'll see. And then we already have the thread set up here for the 2026 midterm elections, because depending on how these midterms go is going to depend on how well Trump will be able to exert his power. Is he going to be able to do more stuff in the latter half of his second term or less stuff in the latter half of his second term? That's going to depend on how these midterms turn out. And how these midterms turn out is also going to depend on the impact he has over the following 2 years. So we'll be looking at the odds, and again, you can look at the elections here, and you can see all the states highlighted and already colored for when these elections and where these elections are taking place in the United States. And then, of course, the election over there in Canada. Yeah, Jagmeet doing his thing, trying to... yeah, I think that's just a joke count, if I am not mistaken. And then Pierre doing his thing. Again, if I can just scroll to the top real quick. Whatever. You'll be able to... Actually, could I get to the pinned messages here? Yep, there you go. Here's the Wikipedia page for the Canadian federal election. So, the election could be called as early as March. So we're having back-to-back-to-back elections here in the first quarter for a lot of countries. We can't just focus on the United States, and it's important to just keep your eye on these things and know that they exist, so then you're not surprised, more or less. Like, sure, have whatever opinion you want. I could care less. What I care about is just having access to the information as quickly as possible, so then I can make my own determination and you can make your own determination. And that's what the purpose of those threads are. Whenever you get some information, try and be curious and share some of that information. And again, hey, we had a thread on the wildfire, so I see this and I'm like, oh, okay, let's go ahead and share that in the wildfires. That might be an interesting bit of information to keep around. And then there you go, securing our borders. This is all of the stuff related to the borders, all the new policies. So I'm actually going to post real quick. Where is it? Yep. Mexico, United States border crisis. We already had one in here guaranteeing the protection against invasion and securing our borders. So a couple of posts that needed to go into there. And again, if you want to follow those particular threads, just pull them up and hit the three dots or right click on them and hit follow. Okay, so what else is there? UK and EU vetoes Putin talks. Starmer, so this is UK talking about a UK or Great Britain Russia policy. Void Zilla, Coffee Zilla, just the guy who one of the people who preached during Trump's inauguration, this guy, immediately after he did his preaching, went into some back room and promoted a shitcoin. Immediately started promoting a shitcoin. In like he just did a TikTok, or he did something, he posted on X or something. He just, after being at the president's inauguration and giving a prayer at his inauguration, goes into a back room and starts trying to pump a shitcoin. Oh my god. This, I genuinely don't know if this is worse than like 2016, 2017, the ride up to 2000, the first time Bitcoin went up to 2000, if you guys recall. Let's go ahead and look at the Bitcoin all-time history index. Yeah, it's this one over here. Let's see here. Let's turn on the logarithmic chart. This whole ride up, during 2017, 2018, this whole ride up had so much fraud. Had so many scams. This is when shitcoin really had a name. And now we're in a whole, look at all this damn TA. I even have a little thing right here. People are going to talk about that dip in Bitcoin for a long time. And look at that. Yeah, that was the last time we traded at 20,000. Man, it's been another great ride. And guess what? This has been another great time. Since this point forward, it's been great for shitcoins. And all this type of behavior, even the stuff of Trump coin, is very reminiscent of the type, you know, the Haktua coin and all that is very reminiscent of this period here. So I've already lived through stuff like this, so I'm not falling for this. I'm not falling for that stuff again. However, now things could actually materially be different because you have the US government. I would have never imagined this. If you had told me this several years ago, that the US government was going to be very pro crypto, I would have said never in a million years would they actually do that. Never in a million years would they do that, because it would make crypto the most valuable asset class in the world, and it arguably shouldn't be. Arguable. Like, think about the utility that it provides to people over oil. Crypto doesn't provide, like, it's just money. It's just a money replacement system. Sure, there's some utility, but the other reason why I think it's total that it's kind of stupid that the US government is being so pro crypto. Like, it's nice that we're getting regulations and all of that around it, but one of the whole points of crypto is to become more important than government money and government debt. Like, being very pro crypto means governments can be subservient to economic systems that they have no control over, or anyone has any control over. And that might sound all well and good, but if you have any sort of financial crisis, and because there's no like one person who can control everything and totally regulate the outcome of stuff, yeah, sure, it means that things can't be corrupted by maybe some government, but you could also still have bad actors and conspiracies collaborate in a decentralized system to try and force a particular outcome in these systems. Like, there are other dangers that you open yourself up to in these sorts of systems. Now, the good thing is that they become auditable, but where does the enforcement power come from? Any sort of enforcement power only comes from people who have power on chain. And necessarily the people who could do the most manipulating are the people who have the most power on chain. You know, also vis-a-vis, you know, when the government has control over their money, they're the ones who can manipulate the money the most. So, you're just, I see it as trading one devil for another. And at least with the government, it's a devil you know. With crypto, the person running some of these things can be totally anonymous. Like, could be totally anonymous. Not all the time, not in every situation, but there's an option there to be anonymous. It's just, you're leaving the enforcement actions of any wrongdoing to be on the crypto exchange, crypto chain side of things. Not necessarily in the government's hands explicitly. Now, with the regulations, you can say, oh yeah, you know, the US government's going to be able to look at the stuff on chain and say, hey, you know, that's illegal, you can't do that. And then they could, you know, maybe write something into the code of the chain saying, you know, this kind of transaction or this kind of behavior is illegal. But now you just have government exerting control over these projects, which now you're back to square one, which is, it's just the government's controlling the rules of how these systems operate, which which is what they were built to replace. So it's really like oxymoronic in a sense when you go back and you look at like why all this crypto stuff was created, and the motivation of Satoshi Nakamoto back during great financial crisis to actually start Bitcoin as a project. It's very funny. Kind of ironic that the US government's getting so behind it. Like, it was very encouraging to see El Salvador like adopt and buy Bitcoin, but that was just like, okay, this is step number one before other countries start looking at this and are like, oh man, we need our Bitcoin reserve, right? Oh man, do you think Trump announcing that he wants to refill the oil reserves back up to full is bullish for oil? Well, gee, I wonder what you're gonna think once the actual announcement of Bitcoin. Like, there's huge upside risk to Bitcoin, because as soon as Trump announces he's going to begin the process of, you know, creating and buying that Bitcoin reserve. I mean, for all intents and purposes, a huge chunk of that Bitcoin might not even be bought off the market. I don't know exactly how much, but I seriously doubt that the US government has no Bitcoin in custody that they could take over and put into their reserves. Like, it'd be very, very easy. I'm pretty sure that I don't know exactly how much they have, but I'm fairly certain that the US government has custody over some Bitcoin from crimes. So now it's more or less a matter of, okay, when you commit a crime and you get caught and it's Bitcoin related and they've taken and seized your Bitcoin, does it now go into the US Bitcoin reserve? I think that would be a pretty logical thing. And then all you have to do to figure out what the demand will be from the US government to build up their crypto reserve will be to find out, okay, how much do they currently have in their reserve and what's their target? And then how many coins are they buying at what frequency? So there's and then all the regulation related stuff that could be coming out. Again, you know, David Sachs and Solana, and I haven't been very keyed into all the nitty-gritty details of who's involved in what projects and who's been early on what and all this stuff. I have not been keyed into it, so I am, you know, no expert on the who's who. But I'm fairly competent on the what and the why, and like, okay, I hear this bit of information, I know I can figure out the implied move of said information, you know, reasonably. Speaking of, let's not forget one of the matters at hand here, upcoming New Zealand and Canadian inflation. So, dollar CAD, head back to this, turn on our chart stuff. And would we call that a hit? I'm not. I mean, maybe. Let's go ahead and slap these things on. Wow. Oh my god. I don't know if you guys use these, I don't know how many people watching use range probabilities and have access to it. Again, link to these indicators is in the description. But check that out. Right there. A nice spot to take a shot on the long side. Look at that. Nice clearance. Oh man. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to I would not be surprised to see us back above 145 sometime this week. And real quick, let's look at the yield spreads. I mean, the yield spreads are looking pretty all right, but what's going on with that 7-year? The 3 years pulling back, but everything else is looking a-okay. So everything's looking all right in my book. Yeah, it looks like probably by end of month we'll still be up here. There's don't get me wrong, the tariffs are now a new thing. Okay, February 1st, the 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico are expected to come in. I completely expect that to throw a huge wrench into Canadian politics. It would be a smart thing for me just to do a quick review some other time. Again, if you want to follow the Canadian politics stuff, I got a thread here. So if I find updates later today as I do my searches, you can follow the Canadian federal election thread in the research forum. But given that bit of information about, okay, February 1st, these tariffs are going on, this is just constant pressure up until February 1st. So let's go ahead and let's see here. February 1st is actually over a weekend, a 3-day weekend, it seems. So we're going to say 25% tariffs. So this is when the 25% tariffs get put on the next day after this, because there's a weekend here. I'll go ahead and hide this. So the day after this blue line, there are tariffs. So it goes, the 31st of January is Friday, and then it goes to the 3rd of February, because the 1st and the 2nd of February are the weekend. So I'd say leading into, I mean, you got about a week and a half until these tariffs get put on Canada. A week and a half. Let that just sink in. It's not that far away. This could easily go much. This could easily go pretty darn high. Again, the main problem with Canada, remember, Canada's parliament is, we got like some background guy speaking. There we go. Remember that Canada's parliament is currently suspended until March 24th. So let's go ahead and put a line over on March 24th. Oh my god, that is pretty far away. Oh man. Oh man. So you have this whole, oh my god, you have 2 months of time between when the tariffs are on and just when Parliament gets back. This tariff is going to light a fire under Canada's ass to get their elections going now. This is a big deal. I mean, people are really now going to push to get Pierre in as soon as possible from this announcement here. And Pierre probably isn't going to be too happy once he actually gets into office he's probably not going to be like super friendly with Trump. I would actually say that U.S.-Canada relations might be extremely formal. Extremely formal. But the last thing you want to do with the United States is to get into a tariff war, because the U.S. will win tariff wars. If they only get into tariff wars with one country, it's not going to be the end of the U.S. It's going to be the end of that country, because there's a lot of countries that just sell stuff exclusively to the U.S. So Canadian sentiment, when I wrote this a while ago, Canadian sentiment is going to get pushed into more negative territory. Canadian sentiment is going to be in the toilet like right now, based on the expectations of these tariffs coming in. The question is, what is Trudeau going to do? Is he going to retaliate against these tariffs? Is he just going to lie down and let Canada take it? So we have to watch what Trudeau does. And the Labour Party in Canada really needs to get their act together and elect someone. Like, they can't have a very, very long election process at this point, because having these tariffs on for this long would really hurt their odds of getting any sort of power. Like, you could see a huge sweep in sentiment just to get the Conservatives in power, to kick out the Labour Party, so then Pierre can negotiate these tariffs away. Because the Lord knows there's no expectation that Trudeau will. So that's what's going on with Canada. I definitely expect this to be going higher. I would again, the surprises are to the upside on this one. The risks are to the upside, definitely on this one. And then New Zealand dollar. Right? Inflation, this one's pretty straight. We had this bump up because we thought we were not going to have tariffs announced, and then we had tariffs announced. I'm not too sure what the announcement of the Mexico and Canadian tariffs had to do with New Zealand, but I do know that I was looking at this move up and I'm like, oh man, it's only a matter of time before I really have to sell this thing. I don't know when. And then as soon as the news with Mexico and Canada came out, I'm like, okay, this is, this isn't necessarily China or Australia tariff related or related to a particular, New Zealand export or exporting partner. This is just, hold on. This is just trading in line with expectations. That's it. It's just, okay, we had tariffs called on, we had tariffs called off. It's just a USD side of the pair story that's moving New Zealand. But pretty soon we're going to have something on the New Zealand side moving us lower, and that would depend on how this quarter over quarter report came out. Now, I already went over this, but I'm just going to repeat briefly here. 0.4% quarter over quarter Q4 CPI for last year or lower is expected to be good for disinflation. It would mean that the RBNZ can lower their cash rates even more beyond the 50 basis points we're expecting at the next meeting. And then that would increase and it's expected to further weaker the New Zealand dollar. Getting 0.5, 0.6, it might cause some hesitation. That's the expectation. But net we'll get the 50 basis points of cuts, and then we'll have to look at data that comes over the next 2 or 3 months before any more rate cut expectations are set on top of the 50 we're expecting to get in February. Above 0.6, we're going to get serious hesitation on even the 50. We could see odds of a 25 basis point rate cut instead of a 50 start getting priced in. So for the period ahead, I still have a negative expectation here on New Zealand. There are other tariff-related things going on with like the pound and Europe. Right, Euro moved 100 some odd pips during Inauguration Day, and now it's down. Like, Euro's been very volatile. The pound has been very volatile. Like, yeah, it moved 145 pips up on this day. Yeah. But even though we had these moves higher, it still doesn't seem all too great. And you can see that the pound still getting kicked, and the daily yield spreads are now really quite negative again. So that's not good looking forward. Okay. Well, I'd say with that all said, this has been a longer stream than normal. We've been going on for an hour here. Most of the time it's like 30 minutes, 45 minutes for these streams, but I just wanted to make sure we did a solid review of all the things that have gone on in the last 24 hours and just kind of gloss over the expectations and how they impact different events, right? In the research threads, we'll be staying up to date on those events, and then looking at the short-term things here. Now, tomorrow, we just have Canadian PPI, so we'll be using tomorrow to look at Thursday and Friday collectively, to look at our expectations, to look at more research, and then try and see if there's any new information from the Trump admin over the rest of this day, and also review it in tomorrow's stream. Other than that, please, really, seriously, when you find stuff, share it in the research threads. If you don't know where to post it, I don't care. Put it in geopolitics. Discord has a feature now where we can forward messages around the server, so don't worry about not posting stuff in the wrong place. You just post it in geopolitics, post it in economics, post it in central banks, post it in a trading channel. Just post it, and then figure out how to. We'll figure out where it goes later, and then over time, you'll figure out like, oh, this goes in that thread, and this goes in that spot. Because it's a lot easier just to have topic-related spots to contain all the information, but again, to make it as easy as possible, feel free to just post it in one of these more general research threads until you figure out like, oh, this goes here, that goes there, okay, whatever. Because the purpose of those threads is you get notified, right? When someone posts, you get a notification when you follow those threads. So when you post in a general chat like geopolitics, it doesn't send any notifications. When you post in a research thread, you get a notification. That's kind of the main difference. Okay. So with that all said, and that all ready for the day ahead. I'm going to wish you all good luck on the day ahead. I'll say thank you all for watching, all you guys who have stuck around for the full hour. And I'm going to go ahead and try and get some programming done, which means, sadly, no poker today. No poker today. I need to get some programming done. I want to get some work done. I've been pretty motivated to do stuff, and all this pre-work around the inauguration has really had me on pause these last 2 or 3 days. So I have some things I want to do and work on, so no poker. I'm going to spend that time programming. So, as always, you guys, I will see you all in a bit.